Happy Monday, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Before we bring on the stars of the show, I want to tell you in the chat, Rick and Mark and Brad and Gator fan and Taylor, hit the like button if you could. Thank you for being in here. Let's take a look at the recap screen from last night and Friday. Last night's show, well, it didn't do very well because the three people on it, that included me, had Jets money line. So that game turned pretty quick at the end of the first half, and there was no turning back for the Steelers. However, we go 10-7 overall, and that includes 3 losses on the Jets money line. So you might want to calculate that 10-5, but it technically is 10-7 because 3 of us did have the Jets money line. Danny Brasco did go 1 for 2 as he had that Allen Lazard over as well. All right, well, we're going to try to do better than 10-7, and we're going to do it with the stars of the show. Let's bring them on right here, right now. It's a Monday, so you know we've got Mike McClure, we've got Larry Hartstein, we've got the Sniper, and normally I go to Larry and Mike for NFL reaction to Sunday or Sunday night, wherever they want to go, and we're still going to do that. But Sniper, I got to go to you first because the World Series is set. It's the 2 teams that I think a lot of people thought would maybe be facing each other at the beginning of the season, the Yankees, the Dodgers. What is any surprise on your end in terms of, hey, you thought maybe it'd be other teams or expectations? Set the table for us.
Well, from the perspective of we haven't seen the 1 seeds both make it that much, then I would not have thought at the start of the playoffs we would definitely get this matchup. But it is the best team in each league, and that's really cool. It's the first time since 2013 when it was the Red Sox and Cardinals that both 1 seeds made it all the way to the World Series. And I think that if you injected Rob Manfred with truth serum back in spring training, he would say, I hope for the Yankees and Dodgers you start with Ohtani and Judge right off the top, but there's also Juan Soto and Mookie Betts, and we could keep going. Really exciting matchup. I am excited for absolutely everything except my flights in between. I've got one of the best ones was a 7:25 a.m. to 6:05 p.m., and that's the one I jumped on so far. So, yeah.
Yikes. Wow. Okay. Best wishes to you. All right, let's transition. Reed Phillips with an appropriate comment. Money versus money for the World Series. Let's go, he says. That's actually literally true. I mean, these are 2 of the teams that spend the most money. Obviously, the Mets are up there too. They were in the NLCS, but you know, I don't love the lack of a salary cap or what have you, but that's what we have in Major League Baseball. Mike, let's go to the NFL. Your reaction to NFL Sunday.
The Commanders, let's talk about that. Hopefully Jaden Daniels escapes a serious injury, but it was an absolutely beautiful thing. You know, we talked about this across a lot of shows, really. When a team starts to have success, things like a bad defense start to kind of shore up and effort really starts being put in everywhere else. And it was really cool to see that out of the Commanders. That was a heck of a win. I know they played a very bad Panthers team, but they still took care of business in a big, big way. Kansas City, I don't know how they keep winning football games and just a poor performance on the 49ers, but injury concerns for both of those teams. The big concern for the 49ers, though, if the Cardinals win tonight, the Cardinals are ahead of them in the division as well. And we're literally looking at the 49ers potentially missing the playoffs.
Yeah, especially with Brandon Ayuk's injury. Looks like out for the year with an ACL. We'll see about Debo. When is Christian McCaffrey coming back? Maybe week 10. Vibes certainly not high for the San Francisco 49ers. Larry, before we get to official picks, your reaction to NFL Sunday.
Yeah, they're still minus 170 to make the playoffs, the 49ers. That's how much confidence people have in them, but they've got to get Dallas. If they fall to 3-5, they are in trouble. There were statements made in the NFC by the Lions, by the Packers. The Packers dominated that game, held the Texans to under 200 yards. They had 2 interceptions. They had a muff punt, and they still came out with the victory. And the Lions, that should have been a bigger win as well. They had a fluke touchdown return. So both those teams made statements. But on the other hand, the one I have to talk about is Antonio Pierce. You get down to the goal line, you get down to the 4-yard line, and you miss 3 passes when you probably should have run the ball if you were thinking it's 4-down territory. Then you get a false start and 4th and 9, less than 3 minutes to go. Let's kick the field goal. Let's cover the spread, and we still need a touchdown to win the game if we do get the ball back. I mean, just ridiculous. Yes, I had the Rams minus 5.5, but that is separate. That is separate from the fact that this team, and I think the players are quitting too. I mean, not just Devontae Adams. If you go back and watch corner Jack Jones, watch the highlights on Twitter, not even attempting to make tackles on Kyron Williams and on the receiver, Ty Johnson. Just embarrassing for the Raiders.
Well, when Antonio Pierce called his team soft and said some people quit out there like 3 weeks ago, that was Jack Jones. I mean, he's been laying tackles for at least a month now. So I mean, I don't know how we want to read into that. Maybe Max Crosby is the next to get shipped out, maybe to a contender like the Lions, for example. Anyway, let's get to some official picks. Again, thanks for being in the chat. I see you, David and Jason and Kirk and Steve, CLE fan. Let's see if we have any Ravens fans in the chat, because Mike, you've got a Ravens first half play. What is it?
I do. Yes. I like the Ravens in the first half to put up some points here. I went over 13.5 on their team total. I ultimately think they get 2 touchdowns in the first half of this game. I think Tampa Bay's got some big injury concerns. Number one, we talk about running the football on Tampa Bay. Some weeks you can, some weeks you can't. And that all hinges on Vita Vea. I actually think he might sit this game. Popped up late week with a hamstring injury. Not something you want to be dealing with at his size against this particular team, but it's really this game. I don't think this game matters that much to Tampa Bay. And I know it sounds weird to say that, but it doesn't when you consider what happened in division. You saw the Falcons lose that last game that they just played. They play head to head against the Falcons next week. That game is far more important to them individually. And I think that there's a chance that Vita Vea does not play here. Mike Evans dealing with the hamstring issue as well. Look, I think that this Ravens offense is the best offense in the league. I really believe this number should be 14.5. I think we get the 2 touchdowns here. I think they're going to be able to run the football, but even if they are forced into a passing game script, Lamar has looked very good in the passing game because I don't think anyone can guard Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is going to have a big day over the middle of the field, and I think he's going to continue to help them move the football. So I went Ravens team total here over 13.5. Again, I think they get 2 touchdowns in the first half tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Big says he's running a ladder play with Zay Flowers tonight. I certainly don't hate that option. Ravens should be able to score some points. Keep an eye on that injury report. I might have a prop to give out. I mean, I have a play to give out on this show for the second of the Monday Night Football games, but I may have a prop to give out in the first game. I just need to study it a little bit more. I did want to put people on notice for that. All right, speaking of football, we've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager as normal. If your player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get to some World Series picks from the Sniper. We got to get into Larry's pick. We got to get into my pick. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We are back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Sniper, before this all started, before the playoffs started, at least in some of the books that I looked at, the Dodgers were around plus 350, plus 360 to win the World Series. And I think part of the reason that number was a little bit longer than people anticipated was because they had to get past the Padres, which is obviously super formidable. I liked that number then, but now you're not getting that number, right? Because they've got one team to beat. Talk to us about your World Series winner and perhaps a World Series MVP.
Yeah, I think part of that also was the state of their pitching rotation.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Jack Flaherty and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Walker Buehler, and then bullpen games. And none of those guys right now are reliable. I think on Yamamoto, he's still recovering from the shoulder injury. The other guys are just very inconsistent, especially Walker Buehler this year. I ended up going with Dodgers in 7. I'm not going to play the exacta on this one, but I did look at it. I think the 7 part is wishful thinking that I just wanted to go 7 games between these two teams, but I did take the Dodgers at minus 120. Anywhere that's even close to even money, I was going to take the Dodgers. I think that they are better. It's still, though, it's close to a toss-up. I could totally see somebody taking the Yankees at plus money here. The Yankees rotation is actually in better shape. They just have a few more questions in the bullpen. and the lineup has a few more inconsistencies. The Dodgers lineup looks a lot more stout, even without Freddie Freeman. I expect he'll be okay by Friday for game 1. But as the series goes, it might look a little bit like the NLCS with Freddie Freeman, where toward the end of the series, because he's been playing a lot, they have to sit him, and he doesn't have that much power anyway. But something about the Dodgers right now, the way their offense is going, it feels like they're just going to outslug everybody. And it's not like the Yankees rotation has been amazing or anything there with Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, and Luis Gil. They all have their inconsistencies as well. I think we're going to be hammering a lot of overs in this series. So that means when I went to look at MVP, I was definitely looking at an offensive player. And since I picked the Dodgers, I have to look on the Dodgers side. I thought Ohtani was too obvious. He's really close to even money, if memory serves. I just glanced at him and moved on. So I went with Mookie Betts. I like the way Mookie is swinging the bat right now. I don't see a repeat for Tommy Edman, for example. Teoscar Hernandez would be a quality play, but I like the number on Mookie Betts. And as I said, I like the way he's swinging the bat, sitting there in the 2-hole behind Ohtani in front of the Thunder. That's a really good spot to rack up runs and RBIs. Kind of feels like we're going to talk about him a few more times on the 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. But for now, I'm on Dodgers and I'm on Mookie.
All right. Certainly love the number on Mookie. I mean, looking at this, Sniper, there's probably only a few guys, if the Dodgers win, that can actually win the MVP, right?
Well, I mean, almost anybody in the offense. Like I said, heading into the NLCS, I don't think anybody would have taken Tommy Edman. So
yeah, that's fair.
If they're going to score a lot of runs, you could look at Max Muncy. You could look at Will Smith. You could go back to Tommy Edman. Ohtani is obviously the chalk play there. Teoscar Hernandez would work well. Obviously, I would stay away from Freddie Freeman because I don't think he's going to play a full series. But almost anybody else that plays every day, you could go ahead and roll the dice.
Yeah, Liddy says, Sniper, I love your pick. And Brad says, it's pronounced Aaron Judge. That's a good one.
If you were going to take the Yankees, got some good choices over there, right? You could run it back with Giancarlo Stanton, or you could go Soto, Judge. Gleyber Torres is really locked in right now.
Before I get to my football pick, Mike, I do have to ask you, have you run any sort of simulations or anything on this World Series in terms of the future?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I will say it is fun. It is the best that money can buy. We always love to see that. So, looking forward to this game. But as far as the MLB, they love it. Obviously, you get MVP versus MVP. Will we get the juice baseball? That's the question or not, right? I do lean towards overs, just knowing who's on the field and the power that's on the field. So it's a great opportunity for Major League Baseball. I have not run any numbers yet. If I had to guess, it would have a slight Yankees lean, just a very slight Yankees lean. But I admittedly have not yet.
All right.
And speaking of,
the
overs were a gold mine in the LCS. In LCS, every single over hit. And in the ALCS, so I would have to go back and look, but I would say probably 3 of the 5, if not 4 of the 5 in the ALCS also hit. So overs went crazy in the LCS.
That is very interesting. Mark Buckholz says, hoping for Dodgers in 6. All right. I'm hoping for the Arizona Cardinals, the 2-4 Arizona Cardinals, to get a win tonight. I'm taking the Cardinals money line, and it's for a couple of reasons. I think the Chargers are a bit overrated, or overrated in the market, I should say. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But they may not have Bosa. I don't think they're going to have Joey Bosa today. They're certainly probably not going to have Quentin Johnston. I'm not 100% sure how this offense is going to move with just J.K. Dobbins, who I think is going to have a good game, but hasn't been as efficient as the first couple of weeks. And you might be saying, well, Sia, this Arizona Cardinals defense, it's absolutely terrible. And I would tell you this. Look at who the Cardinals have had to play through the first 6 weeks. I'm just going to list off the teams. The Bills, the Rams, the Lions, the Commanders, the 49ers, and the Packers. Those are 6 of the top 10 offenses in the league. Maybe KC. It's not KC. Maybe one of those teams is outside of the top 10, but those are very formidable offenses. Now you get a Chargers team at home that doesn't have a lot to show for itself when it comes to offense. It's basically going to be J.K. Dobbins and Herbert throwing it to Ladd McConkey, who's also a little banged up from last week, and Josh Palmer. Now look at the Chargers opponents for the first 5 games. The Raiders with Gardner Minshew, the Panthers with Bryce Young, the Steelers with Justin Fields, the Chiefs with, admittedly, Patrick Mahomes and none of his weapons, and the Broncos with Bo Nix. So I just think this is a case where we're looking at the records and we're looking at the teams and we're looking at Harbaugh, the Harbaugh effect and all of those things. And we're just saying to ourselves, well, the Chargers, this is one that they're going to steal. This is one they're going to win. I think the Cardinals win this game. That's why I took the money line as opposed to the +1.5. And I honestly think the Cardinals should be favored by 1.5, if not 2 in this game. That's not what the market says. Give me the Cardinals money line. All right, Larry, we move from a Cardinals pick to you've got a couple of picks, one in this Cardinals game and one, of course, that is similar to Mike McClure's play.
Yeah, starting with the early game with the Ravens, I'm going to play them in the first half. I laid -1.5 at FanDuel. I'm a little leery of the fourth quarter meltdowns we've seen from the Ravens, the way they played in Dallas in the fourth quarter, the way when they had the big lead over the Raiders. So they get up big, and then something happens in the fourth quarter. Let's just play them in the first half. Lamar Jackson, 22-1 straight up against the NFC. I don't think that's fluky. I think it's a shock to the system when you see a quarterback who can run like he can. And the Bucs have already struggled this season with mobile quarterbacks. They've struggled against the run. The one key factor that I love is how much Todd Bowles will blitz and how well Lamar is playing against the blitz this year. 4th in EPA against the blitz, getting the ball out to Zay Flowers, to his tight ends, to Justice Hill. I'm going to play the Ravens in the first half, lay the 1.5. And then in the late game, I do think it's another big night for J.K. Dobbins. This number is climbing from 71.5. I got it 76.5. You're seeing even higher. Gus Edwards is on IR. J.K. Dobbins is the guy, and we know how much Harbaugh loves to pound it. You look at the 5 games Dobbins has played. A couple of games against the Steelers and the Chiefs, who are very good defensively, and he didn't have his tackles. Well, Joe Ald is back. Rashawn Slater is back. The Cardinals give up 153 per game on the ground, 4.7 a carry. Kaiser White, the linebacker, is questionable. They're still missing Darius Robinson, missing a lot of guys defensively against the run. So I think J.K. Dobbins may not be super efficient, but I think we get 18 to 20 carries, and I definitely think we get over 76.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would also probably be looking at a J.K. Dobbins longest rush prop because we know he can have bouts of inefficiency and then he just springs one for, 18, 19 yards. I'm guessing his longest rush prop, I'm not even looking at it, but I'm guessing it's in the 15.5 to 16.5 range. Larry, did you happen to know what that is?
I saw 16.5, and I have seen a lot of sharp people on that over.
Oh, okay. That's great. Brad Betts, he's sharp. He says England, Nottingham Forest versus Crystal Palace, both teams to score -112. And he says live play Navi Pazar versus Partizan, both teams to score -115. Not sure if I got those pronunciations correct. Sniper, was there anything baseball-wise in the chat that you needed to respond to?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're so far away from game one. It's on Friday. So, yeah, we'll get to that later in the week.
Okay. Let's see. Dobbins over 16.5, says Brent Hall, confirming Larry's. Larry, did you see anything in the chat we need to address before we get to the recap screen?
No, I do think that, as somebody who's on the Ravens, I didn't like the news that Vita Vea is expected to play now. They're saying it was kind of precautionary when he didn't practice on Saturday with the hamstring. I was kind of hoping he would sit. He's the big guy, but I still love the matchup. When you have Jamel Dean, the #1 corner, out for the Bucs, that's going to make it harder to blitz, which we know Todd Bowles is going to blitz no matter what. So I can't wait to see Lamar in these spots in prime time on the road, against the blitz. He usually brings it.
Speaking of usually bringing it, Buckets is in the chat. He was 3-0 on Friday, and what's so cool about his 3-0 on Friday, Sniper, I don't know if you remember, and he rarely does this. He said after his 3 takes, he said, "I'm going to have 3 green check marks next to each of my takes." He does that like once a month, maybe, and he's right every time he does it. Yeah, the last time he did it, he was right as well. So that's really impressive to go 3-0 there. There was
too bad he's not here. We could talk about the Babe Ruth called shot and just get his reaction on whether or not he thought Babe Ruth actually did that, and just see what he would, how he would react to that.
Do you think he knows what sport Babe Ruth played?
I think he thinks Babe Ruth is a candy bar. I'm pretty positive about that. There was one other thing. Oh, you know what I wanted to address? The prop that I have that I'm likely giving out. It's not 100% because there's a couple things I want to look for. It's in that Tampa game, and it pertains to Baker Mayfield. If I put that out there, you already got my pick on SportsLine, the one I just gave out. I put it out before the show, like always. But if you want to become a member of SportsLine, and for whatever reason you're not already a member of SportsLine, go to sportsline.com/join. Type in the promo code winners. You get 60% off the annual plan. Again, type in the promo code winners. You get 60% off the annual plan. This is not just a pick site. It's the articles. It's the simulations. Some of the DFS plays that Mike puts out across all sports. There was a lot to absorb, including some of the articles from guys like Jacob Gibbs and Dave Richard. There's a lot on SportsLine. You're going to want to check it out for sure. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. I've got the Cardinals money line, even money. Mike McClure, Ravens first half team total over 13.5 at -110. Larry Hartstein, Ravens first half -1.5 at -110. J.K. Dobbins over 76.5 rush yards at -113. And then we go to baseball. Dodgers to win the World Series at -120. And your MVP at +900, none other than Mookie Betts. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great show. What a great team we had. We had a pretty good day in spite of all the Jets losses. We were still 10-7 on Friday. Don't forget the day before, we were 10-5. At least that's what the recap screen said, except that's not what it said. It actually said 11-5. I said out loud 10-5. So we were 11-5, then 10-7, but we're still trying to do better, get that winning percentage even higher. We're going to try to do it tonight with all the Monday Night Football picks. And don't forget, Monday Night Primetime to address the doubleheader tonight at 7:15. Thank you, everybody, for being in the chat. On behalf of Mike McClure, the Sniper, Larry Hartstein, and, of course, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 9s and 10s, this is the Early Edge. I'm the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.